Hello and welcome into the quarterfinal edition of Gem State Game Day, live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. That's right. We have reached the Elite Eight in each of Idaho's 6 high school football classifications. We are here to break down how many matchups is that? 8 times 4, 32? No, that's not right. 4 times 6, 24. All 24 quarterfinal. The math's already going off the rails. All 24 quarterfinal matchups for you right here on Gem State Game Day, 6A through 1A. Somebody help me out here. My name is Brandon Baney. Let's bring on our panel of experts so I can stop doing math. Joining us live from the Magic Valley is Wyatt Helm. Wyatt, what's going on?
Hey, man. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. You were at a really fun game last week for the opening round of the playoffs on IdahoSports.com. We will get to it momentarily. Also joining us tonight from North Idaho, you know him as the co-host of the North Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com. It is Ryan Scaggs. What's up, Scaggs?
Still recovering from Friday. that was a lot of football in 1 week. Doing you could go the 7-day run where you have a football game, then Monday tiebreak, then Friday you get bonus ball and get an overtime game. That was a pretty exciting week of football last week.
Yeah, and you also had a really exciting first-round playoff game on Idaho. So honestly, guys, if I'm just sitting here, like the three of us, the 3 games we were all broadcasting were by far the most exciting games of the weekend. Wyatt, you were at the Bonners Ferry American Falls game. American Falls won 28-21. Ryan, you had the only overtime game of the weekend, Lakeland and Lewiston, 28-27, Lakeland in overtime. And then I had that wild 8-man game over in Wallace between Wallace and Salmon River. Final score was 64-58. It was just going back and forth. So
shootout.
Yes, that definitely makes us the most qualified people to come on tonight and talk about these exciting quarterfinal matchups. But before we get to the quarterfinals, we've got to talk about how we got to this point. We will quickly recap some of the first round action that happened. And also, if you're watching this live tonight on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, or Instagram account, please like, share, and follow. This will help everybody who isn't here live tonight with us find this a little easier on replay. You can, of course, watch this anytime at those destinations, YouTube, Facebook, and X at IdahoSports.com. We do this every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Pacific Time. And our first comment is from our good friend Sam Buffington. Sam was with me in Wallace on Friday night. He says, I would help Brandon, but I don't know math either. So, yeah, mathletes, we are not. That is for sure. So let's get a look at this updated Class 6A bracket first, guys. Let's throw that up on the screen. And here you see it. The quarterfinals are set. Mountain View takes care of Highland. And I always recommend everybody make their screens full size so you can see this a little easier. Mountain View beats Highland 45-7. Rocky Mountain over Owyhee 38-8. Middleton defeated Capital 64-34, and then Madison in a squeaker over Boise 17-14. Wyatt, what was the biggest what score caught your eye the most from that opening round of the 6A playoffs?
Well, I'd seen a few things. I think Rocky Mountain was bound to kind of have a bounce back game. I think they were ready to do something there. But I think that Mountain View Highland game, I was just more so surprised by the gap in there. I knew Mountain View's defense was going to be really good. I knew it was going to be hard on Highland, but I mean, they putting up 45 is super impressive. I was super impressed with the Mavericks there, just continuing to show that defense and allowing themselves to also score that many points. Super impressive.
Yeah, this one really stood out to me, Ryan. Look at what Mountain View did to Highland's best players. Cedric Mitchell, 13 carries, 16 yards. That's stingy. And Jacob Vincent, 3 rushes for minus 22 yards from the quarterback position. That means he got sacked. Bill Gates Matua got him twice there for the Mountain View Mavericks. Really good defensive performance.
Yeah, no, really impressive effort from the Mavericks in that game against the Highland team that, defensively, is pretty respectable in 6A, and Maverick just lit them up. And then in offense, I mean, just you talk about being discombobulated. You're averaging under 2 yards a carry, rushing the ball. I mean, that's just absolutely if you go team offense. I mean, I think it was under a yard a carry rushing, which is that's absolutely you don't see that every day.
I think the last time this happened to Highland was when they played that team from Utah, Wyatt, the number 1 team in the state of Utah, and just really put the clamps down on the Rams. And then, It's great to see Valentin Gomez-Ricks back in the fold. Only 6 carries, but 2 of them ended in the end zone. Brody Munson caught 2 touchdowns. The big play capability of Mountain View, I think, makes them pretty sneaky as we're heading into the quarterfinal round. Let's take a look at the bracket again here, guys. So again, a 45-7 win for Mountain View, 7-3 moving on. Skaggs, let's go back to the bracket. Outside of Mountain View Highland, which game caught your eye?
Honestly, that Middleton game. And I don't want to poo-poo on Capital at all, but or Middleton for that matter, but offensively, just seeing a 64-point output from that offense, it's not typically built to put up points like that, is just gaudy numbers. 207 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns from Perez, and then you throw in Lewis's efforts, 124 yards on the ground, and then the receptions, for the TD. Just an unbelievable effort against a Capital team that's got some pretty good offensive pieces too. The defense holding them to 34 points, but you're just lighting up the scoreboard. That's an impressive effort from the Vikings.
Yeah, because Middleton had been in a lot of these low-scoring games, right? We think of that 9-6 game with Madison, that nail biter with Rocky Mountain earlier this year. And so, again, Wyatt, the Jake Perez show, 25 carries, 207 yards, 5 touchdowns. Between him and Noah Burnham of Eagle, I don't know who the best running back is in 6A this year, but they are both. They're like 1A and 1B, right?
Yeah, that's so impressive. 25 carries alone. That's just so much work you're putting in, so many carries. You think about and that's not the only game he's had that many carries. Just the sheer amount of carries and bumps and bruises he probably has, and for him to keep going. I just think, you think back to, it's only been a few years that Middleton's been in more of a spread offense. They used to run that double wing for years. And I just think about, he would have been perfect for that. He's perfect for pretty much anybody if you can run the ball, but that double wing kind of just smash mouth football that Middleton was for so many years before they became spread. But I'm also impressed. To get 145 yards passing on 6 total completions. That just shows you're able to kind of take the top off, give it to Perez, and then, take the top off.
If you didn't know that Middleton ran the spread now, you would look at that stat line and be like, oh, that's a wing T team.
Yeah.
6 of 8 passing, 145, 2 TDs.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, you saw Middleton last year when they played Coeur d'Alene in the quarterfinal round, right? And totally different situation at quarterback where they had some injuries and they basically took Drew Holman, a great linebacker and kind of a running back, and they played basically like a single wing offense. Yep. So it was very interesting. Now they got Briar Bauman, who's been doing a fantastic job at quarterback this year. Here we got some comments rolling in. Sam was with me at that Wallace game last week. He says, I can agree. The Wallace game was a fun one. Mr. Mystery says, going to be interesting to see how the Mountain View defense holds up against Rigby. Yes, we'll talk about that matchup here in a second. And then here's Sean Kane. Perez for president. It's election day. Jake Perez, 2025. What do you think, guys? Did you guys all vote today?
You look at the backs that are left in 6A too. There's some great athletes in the backfield for these teams. And then you look at the quarterback play for this bracket, in the quarterfinals, it's going to be pretty. It's just some great athletes out there. And I think the talent's really, the cream's rising to the top that we're going to see in this next round. And Timberline better be on notice. I think this Middleton team is awoken, kind of a sleeping giant there. If their defense comes to play and they can put the clamps down on that passing attack at Timberline, they're going to have their hands full in that quarterfinal game. It's going to be, there's some great games here on this slate. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, the game that really caught my eye outside of the two we've already talked about, it's got to be this Madison-Boise game, right? This is Madison is a team we all think is ready to take that next step. And yeah, sometimes, okay, the win is all that matters, but Wyatt, if you are a team that's ready to take that next step and you're going to come up to Coeur d'Alene this Friday night and knock off the Vikings on their home field, you got to play. You can't allow Boise to no offense to Boise, but you can't allow Boise to hang in and have a chance late. They got out of there with a 17-14 when this was as tight as you could get.
Yeah, especially being at home. Boise traveling across the state. Everything was in Madison's favor in that point. And they have good athletes, and they have, the big O-line, D-line that we've talked about. And, I think it's just stringing together multiple good positions. They played Rigby tough early in the year. I think basically everybody they play tough, whether it's a win or a loss, or but you got to be careful with some of those games. You can't leave points on the board. You can't allow an extra score, especially in the playoffs as everything gets a little bit closer. You got to really tighten, buckle up, have everything kind of figured out.
Yeah, and this was a game that there was a lot of hand wringing and consternation, Ryan, over the matchups, the way it was initially seeded. Should Hawaii have been higher than Highland? But really, for me, the matchup, I thought this was so critical. This is why finishing second in the East between Highland and Madison was so critical, because Highland, I thought, was a pretty good team. Well, they had to play Mountain View. We saw how that happened. I think if you flip it, I think if Highland plays Boise and Madison has to play Mountain View, the results are the same, right? I think Mountain View still wins, and I think whoever plays Boise still wins. But I don't know. I think Highland would maybe put Boise away a little more than Madison did.
Yeah, but I mean, I had this conversation with Tim Kiefer, the defensive coordinator at Lakeland, after the game on Friday, and I think this applies here, is that you get into the playoffs, a win is a win. I mean, the score doesn't really matter at this point. You just got to survive in advance, and if you're going to win, you win ugly. Or you can win pretty, but the win is the win. They did what they needed to do. And it's playoff football. You got some guys, probably there could be nerves involved. You never know like what's going on with, where the kids are at and if they had school that day or what was going on or tests or anything else. So, they're student athletes, but you would think that Highland would probably put up more points on the board than 17. And Madison, I would have said going into the game, Madison, I thought was going to blow them out. I thought it was going to be like a 24-point victory. And so, hats off to Boise for scratching and clawing in that first round to make it a game. But Madison is a much better team, in my opinion, than the score indicates in this game. But, if you win, you win ugly. You got to get that ugly one out of the way, and they're going to have their hands full Friday with Coeur d'Alene on the road in a raucous environment. But they got a coach in Matt Pancari that, that guy can coach. Everywhere he's been, he's found success at times and really gets his kids to get motivated at the right time. So, I don't look at the score and think, oh, man, Madison's in a world of hurt. I think it's just one of those games that, like, you just find a way, and that's what they ended up doing.
That's right. Survive in advance. And now I'm looking forward to all the hate mail I'm going to get from the folks in Rexburg. I can't wait for that. That's going to be and tip of the cap to Boise as well. They got this quarterback, Wayne Bauer, who's only a freshman. I really like what Boise High is doing for sure there. Let's see. In the chat, Mr. Mystery definitely could see some seed-wise upsets happening here as we put our bracket back up on the screen. We have one more first-round matchup to recap there, guys, and it's a Rocky Mountain and Owyhee. This one didn't have a ton of drama. 38-8 win for the Grizzlies. And again, everybody just got a little bit of action. They still do a pretty good job of distributing the ball between like 6 or 7 different guys. Oakley Baxter, runs for 2 touchdowns. Rayshawn Jones touches it 6 times over 80 yards and 2 scores. Owyhee just did not have it going. They tried to run the ball. Didn't have much success, between Housefite, Brecky, and Gaudette. Those guys are all used to getting 80, 90, 100 yards. You see it there, 54, 49, and 37. Rocky Mountain put the clamps on. And Wyatt, I think Rocky Mountain, after they lost to Timberline 2 weeks ago, that kind of refocused them, kind of re-energized them. And I think they're tired of me coming on every week saying, I don't know, that defense has been leaky at times this year.
Yeah. No, the Grizzlies have shown that they are capable of beating anyone. Impressive wins over a couple of good Utah teams with dynamic athletes. They themselves have dynamic athletes. There's a lot of names that are going to go play Division I football and are going to be really successful. The reigning college or the reigning Gatorade Player of the Year. So I think that they feel that. I think maybe it's not the worst thing in the world getting a loss in there and just having to kind of refocus. Everybody practices a little bit harder, pays attention, watches a little bit more film, and maybe they're a better team coming out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I completely agree. I think that's the thing is that loss came. You never want to really lose a game, but if you get one that it's at the end of the year like that was to Timberline, I think that loss came at the right time because it kind of recentered and refocuses you that we don't have it all figured out. We gotta play harder. We gotta be more disciplined on both sides of the ball. We gotta protect the football. They were playing really close to the sun for what felt like a month. And it was like, when's somebody going to finally clip them? And eventually Timberline did. But Rocky's still a very, very good football team, and they got a ton of talent on that roster, and those guys can flat play. So I completely agree with Wyatt. Like that I think that the loss was almost a benefit for Rocky. And if I'm looking at anybody that's going to be facing them, I'm not too thrilled to have a game against them in the playoffs on that end of the bracket, especially with Rigby and Eagle sitting there, or Mountain View for that matter too. But I mean, that top half of the bracket is just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. So let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket then and figure out what we think about these quarterfinal matchups, guys. Let's just start at the top. I think to me, all the matchups are really intriguing. So let's just start at the top and work our way down. Mountain View and Rigby. Where will this matchup be won or lost for the Trojans, Wyatt? What do you think?
Yeah, I think probably end up being that front seven. Rigby always has a pretty balanced offense. They've had a couple of really good quarterbacks that can run as well as distribute. But I think at their heart, they really want to run the ball. They really want to go in there. I think it's – but so and then Mountain View with their defense. So, which front seven is really going to be able to move the line of scrimmage? Is Rigby going to impose their will? Is Mountain View going to be able to stymie them at the line? I think that's where it's won or lost for Rigby.
Yeah, that has kind of been the one thing this year for Rigby. The offensive line was so good the last couple of years. It just, it had to, and right, the Rigby Red Devils, right, Ryan? They turn into the Red Devils this time of year. Right. They revert back to the old school nickname from the 50s. The offensive line, just by not being all the studs they had last year, is not quite as good as last year. And so we'll see if this Mountain View front seven can take advantage. Ryan, what do you think of this matchup with Rigby and Mountain View?
If I'm Mountain View, I'm watching film saying, hey, which dimension of the game do I want to force Rigby to have to operate out of? Am I going to make them double down on the run game and try to take away the pass? Or am I going to double down on the passing game, shutting down the quarterback play that they've had that's been great all year, and try to force them to be one-dimensional in the running game? Like it's like picking your poison there, or cutting your own switch, I guess, at this point. Like, what are you going to have to go get whooped with? But Mountain View is going to have their hands full because I think they do a very admirable job on both, in the run game and the passing game. So if I'm coach, I'm looking at it and I'm trying to look to take advantage of, like you said, the offensive line might be the weak spot this year, if there is any with that Rigby team. Attacking, maybe you see more line stunts, maybe see a lot of, disguised blitz packages, things like that they're able to do to get pressure on the quarterback. So it's being opportunistic and it also too is just taking advantage of the big play when it's there defensively. If you're going to get an underthrown ball, you got to get picks. I mean, you're going to have to force a turnover somewhere against Rigby to get the ball back. And then if you're Mountain View, I mean, I think you're going to have to double down on your run game and probably try to force extended drives to keep the ball out of Rigby's hands on offense.
Yep. It'll be a really fascinating matchup between Rigby and Mountain View. In the chat, Mr. Mystery says a lot of 50-50 games, I think. He's going to go Mountain View, Rocky, Timberline, and Coeur d'Alene. Mr. Mystery, you must live in the Treasure Valley. you must live in Boise or somewhere. Let's talk about Eagle and Rocky Mountain. Wyatt, Ryan, these are two really good, really solid teams. Eagle and Rocky Mountain. This was supposed to be the game for the SIC championship 2 weeks ago, but Timberline kind of mucked those plans up.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I could have said at the beginning of the year, man. You could have realistically seen these two play for a state championship. Two teams with a ton of press and a ton of expectations going into the season, and here they are. They're facing off in the quarterfinal. One of these teams is going to have to lose. The vaunted running attack of Eagle. I mean, gosh dang, we saw them last year just absolutely shred Coeur d'Alene in the semifinals. And then they ended up taking care of business and making their way into the state championship game last year. Did Eagle, and Rocky Mountain comes in with all this D1 talent everywhere. They get some highly heralded transfers that came in, and they reload a little bit and added to a pretty full pool. It was coming back from last year, and so I think this is you could say this is probably the best. I mean, in my opinion, it is the best game of the weekend. 100 at 6A. This is an unbelievable matchup between these two teams. So I think it's going to be one defensively. I mean, honestly, it's going to come down the defensive side of the ball. How does the Eagles defense lock down the receivers of Rocky Mountain, and how can Rocky Mountain bottle up and hold back that running game from Eagle? Because gosh, it is so good, man. Their running back is a stud, and he only gets better. It feels the later in the year it goes. It's crazy watching him play, but his touches get better as the season wanes on.
Well, to steal a baseball term, since the World Series just wrapped up, Noah Burnham's like the closer. That's the guy they lead on late in the game to finish it off. So
100%. And he just grinds people down. He is a load to tackle.
Yeah. Wyatt, let's talk Middleton Timberline. Timberline wants to get out and sling it around. Jack Brandt wants to throw it to Hudson Lewis and some of the playmakers they've got on the perimeter. Middleton wants to control the clock, run the ball a little bit with Perez. How do you see this matchup going?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, the top half of that bracket being tough. I do like that the champion out of that side kind of got the easier, they get rewarded for going out, beating Rocky, beating them, and being the champion out of that. So I think they deserve that. But with that being said, again, if Middleton's able to run the ball and Jake Perez is running, it's going to be a long night. And I think if you're Middleton, you're going for limited possessions for Timberline. How can we control the clock? I mean, wait till the ref starts his count into 10 or 5 seconds before you're snapping the ball each time, huddling, all that kind of stuff, and allowing yourself to control the ball, move methodically down, and force Timberline to score every time they get it, because they're worried that, hey, if I don't score this possession, I'm not going to get another possession maybe until the, second quarter or third quarter, whatever it is. So, but again, then you're on the Timberline side. You just, I think, get out early, make sure you have momentum. I think the worst thing you could do is be limping into the next rounds, and trying to, and that's your thought process there.
And let's not forget, guys, Middleton did beat Timberline in the regular season, 26-12. And the game plan was Jake Perez. He ran the ball 35 times for 216 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jack Brandt only got to throw 24 passes. He threw 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And so for Middleton, that was the name of the game. And so Timberline certainly is going to have revenge on their minds. Sean Kane says Middleton beat Timberline. Hold my diet soda, Scaggs. Yes, that did happen in the regular season. So they have the advantage there. And then let's talk about the last matchup here, Scaggs. This is the game you will be broadcasting for us Friday night on IdahoSports.com. Madison making the trip north to take on Coeur d'Alene. The Vikings have had a bye week to kind of get healthy. We think Lindquist, their number 2 receiver, is going to be back. We think maybe Ben Murray on the defensive side of the ball might be back as well. What do you think of this matchup here?
Man, if they can get Lindquist and Murray back, you talk about 2 different difference makers in the game. And Murray on the defensive side just plays with his hair on fire. I mean, that kid is a sideline-to-sideline freak. And Lindquist can stretch the field, and they're going to need something. If they don't have him, it's going to have to be creativity with Tanner Stern at quarterback, manufacturing some chunk plays. The running game, whether it's, obviously they lost their running back before the season even started. So they played, most of the way played all the way without him. And obviously they lost Caden Simmons a few weeks ago due to a broken collarbone. So it's been Tanner Stern at the helm. And, how can they use his athleticism, get him in space, some run pass option looks, and see if they can take advantage of Madison trying to come off the edge and maybe put pressure in the passing attack and throw some screens behind it. I think is going to be a way of getting creative. But the one thing Madison's got, they got to ace up their sleeve, and that's their head coach, Matt Pancari. If you know anybody up here in North Idaho knows how to clip Coeur d'Alene, he's probably the guy to do it. He's done it. I don't want to say often, but he's done it enough that he knows this Coeur d'Alene offense inside and out. He knows, how to shut down, that Viking offense. And I think Coeur d'Alene's strength, overwhelming all year, has been their defense, especially the back half. The linebackers and strong safety and free safety for Coeur d'Alene are just great. I mean, they can play sideline to sideline. They can move guys in the box and pack it if they need to. They're going to have to find a way to get their defensive line. That's, for me, if I'm looking at any side of the ball for Coeur d'Alene that's going to create a win, it's if the defensive line can take some pressure off the back end and neutralize that front, the big line from Madison, and find their mismatches, or maybe it's just using more motion or twists or something like that to try to find angles and not have to blitz so often to create pressure. Coeur d'Alene's going to have a chance. I think you might be into another game just like last week where it's low scoring. It might be 17-14, or it might be, a 20 to 17 game. I mean, realistically, I wouldn't expect anything different, I think, between these two teams, just because Coach Pancari knows Coeur d'Alene so well.
It is always hard to go to Coeur d'Alene in the playoffs and get a win. It's a long road trip. They do seem to have a pretty good home field advantage. So
it's going to be cold and wet too. Yeah, I mean,
it's been raining for like 3 weeks in a row here in Coeur d'Alene. So we'll see if weather maybe plays an impact as well. It should be a really fun matchup there. All right, guys, that is our breakdown of the Class 6A brackets. When we come back here on Gem State Game Day, we'll take a look at the 5A classification. Don't go anywhere. It's Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
As Idahoans, we're not afraid to take risks.
All the way. Go. All the way down.
Driving under the influence is not a risk we're willing to take. Be around to do more of what you love.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. Brandon Baney hanging out with Wyatt, Helm, and Ryan Scaggs tonight as we take a look at this monstrosity, the Class 5A bracket. 16 teams in this bad boy. So you really got to make the screen extra big here. Pretty much all of the favorites won. I would say, number 10, Blackfoot, number 11, Sandpoint, number 9, Lakeland all won. But I would argue they were the better teams coming into those matchups. This was that weird bracket where the top 8 seeds were determined by district representation. I don't think the 8 best teams were necessarily the 8 teams that were playing at home this past Friday. Scaggs, you got to go second last time. So give me, I think I know where you're going to go, but give me what was to you the most interesting game of that opening round.
Yeah, I mean, I have to go with the game I was on the call for. I was lucky for that one. Lewiston and Lakeland. I mean, 3 times was the charm for Lakeland, and they got the win last Friday. They obviously lost in the tiebreak that you could go back, and there was some hemming and hawing about Mason Way. Did he get in the end zone? Did he not? I don't think it mattered. They got the victory Friday night. So, a great effort as a team. And I look at Peyton Hillman. I know his stat line's not going to shock and wow anybody. But the way he did a phenomenal job just commanding the offense. And I was talking to his parents actually in the parking lot before the game, just about his temperament, because he's like never too hot, never too cold. And his team kind of mimics that when chips are stacked against you. And Lakeland never acted like they were freaked out when Lewiston was making some valiant runs. I mean, Lakeland jumped out to a 21-0 lead right off the bat, and Lewiston just scratched and clawed and fought their way back into the game. Got some huge plays from Yoder, another big one from Austin Top as well. And then, Way, he put the team on his back for Lewiston. He fought super hard in that game. It was a great game on both sides of the ball. I mean, just a very entertaining ball game. Top to bottom, and Lakeland got it done, stopping the extra point attempt in overtime from Lewiston on a kind of a muff snap. And then, Sterling rolls out and drills the game-winning PAT for a win in the playoffs. I mean, it was a big deal and a nice win for that Lakeland group. And one thing I think, if people watch film on Lakeland, Griffin Tamagni just absolutely jumps off the screen if you watch tape. And it's not because of like top end speed or anything like that. His vision is as good as any running back I've seen in high school football in probably 5 or 6 years. He is so patient in the backfield and just picks defenses apart. Lakeland wanted this win so bad because they are absolutely jacked to get a rematch against Hillcrest. And I think they're actually excited to go to Hillcrest to try to get revenge from their loss last year in the semifinals, where they were just so close to the upset and ended up letting that one slip away at the end. But yeah, that was a phenomenal ball game Friday night. And man, I mean, people had a real treat if they were tuning into that one.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun for sure. In the chat here, guys, here's Michael Monroe. The top 8 right now is all the top 8 from the final Max Preps ratings, except for number 9 Century, who beat number 8 Columbia. Seems like Max Preps was pretty right. Yeah, I didn't say Max Preps wasn't right. I said the bracket, because the top 8 seeds were determined by Yeah, the bracket was wrong because they're predetermined by district representation.
Get rid of it.
Yes, so that's like, no offense to Minico and some of the others, but I don't think they were top 8 teams. I agree. I think the best teams all won and advanced. So let's talk about who Lakeland is going to play in the quarterfinals. You mentioned it, Scaggs. It is going to be number 1 Hillcrest, a 49-15 victory over the Russets from Shelley High School. This was a district rematch. Hillcrest rolls Tyson Sweetwood 3 touchdowns through the air. 2 of them to Tate Prince, the other one to Mason Davis. Shelley just couldn't get much going. Conley Bennett, their leading rusher, only 13 yards on 8 carries here, Wyatt. And Hillcrest, again, looks very impressive.
Yeah, Hillcrest, been there, done that. I think that's kind of, they're getting into some of these games. They're just trying to keep their flow, keep their mojo going. They have expectations to be playing in late November. I mean, that's been the expectation for multiple years. So that's kind of how those kids are. They come into it, they're ready, they're prepared. They have dynamic athletes, yes, but they're well coached, they're well disciplined, they have an understanding of what's expected. And so, it's always gonna be tough for a team like a Shelley or somebody like that to get that upset. But when you go against a team that they're gonna go, in the quarterfinals with experience and stuff like that, I think it's definitely going to be a bit more of a challenge than they had that first week.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the bracket, guys. Hillcrest and Lakeland. This was a semifinal matchup last year, Ryan. Now it's a quarterfinal matchup 1 round earlier, and the Hawks had to go to Hillcrest last year. They played outdoors. It was a snowstorm. They're going to play outdoors again at Westmark Stadium there at Hillcrest High School. What does Lakeland have to do to exact revenge this year?
The one thing about Lakeland, I think people don't know how good their defense is. For years we've known about that running attack and how they've kind of changed things, and they can spread it around this year. They've got 3 really good receivers on offense too. Lakeland could pull an upset. I mean, honestly, you look at this group and the way they can play in multiple directions. They can play run heavy if they have to control the game. They can go pass heavy if they're coming from behind and actually get some success. Defensively is where this game's going to hinge. And I'll put it on one guy, and it's a kid that I love to death. I think he is probably one of the best pure football players in North Idaho. It's Cash Lund. He kind of plays like this hybrid strong safety position, just floats around the field, and all he does is just make huge plays. He'll break up passes, he'll get interceptions, he'll make tackles for loss, he'll blitz and sack the quarterback. And he's not a real big kid. He just plays with a head full of bricks and just goes at it. And they've got a decent secondary. I think that's the other thing too. Jace Taylor on the outside, he can match up with the number 1. He can play on the outside at corner and do fairly well. Siler Bauer has been getting better as the season gets longer. He's been playing pretty well, on the weak side corner position. He's doing a great job. And then you look at obviously the one thing that's really hard to prepare for Lakeland is that their front for defense, it's kind of an amoeba. They can give you a 3-man look. When next play, they'll show up in a 5, they'll shift to a 4. It's just a really interesting defensive scheme that's really hard to prepare for because you don't know what you're going to get from them based just how on the base lineup is at the line of scrimmage. So if Lakeland's going to get a win, I mean, they're going to have to get some turnovers. Have to get turnovers from Hillcrest. Sweetwood controls the ball extremely well. He's a great quarterback. He's a phenomenal athlete. They're going to have to contain him with, they're going to have to get some pressure from the outside in the passing attack, but I think they got to contain him in the running game. If they can contain him in the run and not let him leak out and leak free in the open field again, they're going to have a puncher's chance in this ball game, especially if they're going to be able to dictate the line of scrimmage with running.
Yeah, I love Lakeland. I actually, ironically, live in the Lakeland School District up here in North Idaho, but Hillcrest, I can't go against the Knights.
Yeah,
Stephen Faircloth III is saying, so you're saying Sweetwood might have to play in a fourth quarter for the first time this year?
Yep.
I'd say yes. I'd say the starters go the distance. And how about this, Ryan? Mr. Mystery's on your side. I'd say Lakeland upsets.
I didn't say Lakeland wins. I just said Lakeland has a chance. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to pick a winner in this game. I do think it's going to be a competitive ball game. I think people might think that Hillcrest is going to boat race Lakeland. I think it could be eerily similar to last year's game just based on what Lakeland brings to the table. I think they get overlooked a little bit.
Yep, we'll see. Mr. Mystery says also he's going Twin, BK, and Skyline. Interesting.
Those are good picks.
Yeah. Okay, Wyatt, outside of the Hillcrest Lakeland pod, which game was most intriguing to you from that opening round of the 5A playoffs?
Yeah, there's definitely a few of them. I kind of went back and watched a couple of them. So being the Magic Valley guy, I'd probably say Twin Falls beating Ridgeview. I think there are a couple things with that. A lot of the scoring from Twin Falls, I'm trying to remember. They might have had 7 points, but it might have been 0-0. But there was maybe 3 minutes left in the first half, and Twin scored 2 or 3 touchdowns right before halftime in that final. The Warhawks kind of just fell apart right at the end of the first half, right before halftime, and that game was kind of blown open at that point. But I think them scoring 38 and then holding the Warhawks to 0. I mean, that's just so impressive. Ridgew's played really tight with a couple good District 3 teams. So for Twin Falls to kind of flex their muscles a little bit on defense and Saddleberg rushing the ball is just, he's a dynamic kid. He's pretty strong, but he is really, really fast when he breaks that first level of the defense into the second level. I think it adds a lot because Ty Hess he's such a good runner himself. The fact that you have to handle 2 dynamic athletes in the backfield is just tough for any team.
Yeah, Saddleberg has been a really dynamic running back all year, maybe one of the unsung guys in Class 6A football for sure. And they just absolutely shut down Ridgeview. I mean, Hunter Schmidl, good dual threat quarterback, threw 2 picks, minus 7 yards rushing. Yeah, Ridgeview just could not get anything going. Put up the bagel there on offense. So Twin Falls is going to play Century. Hey, I always ask, are the Diamondbacks ever going to lose again?
Yes.
Indications are maybe at some point, but for now, 9-0. One of just, I think, 3 teams left in Idaho that are undefeated. I could be wrong on that. Just off the top of my head, I'm thinking Century and Bishop Kelly and Kendrick. And maybe is Fruitland undefeated still?
Fruitland's
Fruitland.
So 4. I think there's 4 undefeated teams left in Idaho. Century is one of them at 9-0. They blow past Columbia 40. I thought this game might be closer. Columbia, I thought, had a chance. I mean, look at what Jackson Cheslak did. He ran for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns, but Century had a bend but don't break defense. And Justice Mangum, my Lord, 194 yards and 3 scores on 11 carries. And then he threw a touchdown pass to Josiah Davids as well. And Tito Villano did his usual thing. And Wyatt, Century just everybody keeps doubting them. And Century says, we're good with that.
I mean, you have Justice Magnum, who's one of, if not maybe the best all-around athlete in Idaho. I mean, if you were just talking pure athleticism, speed, lateral quickness, I mean, all of that, he is just, I mean, an absolute menace for people to try to tackle. He's so dynamic, so fun to watch. So big props to him and does such a good job. I mean, again, completing 4 passes and you get 83 yards out of that. I mean, that's pretty good. I'll take that, and then again, 200 yards on 11 rushes. I mean, that's just so tough. And they do a good job of getting him looks and getting Villano looks as well. And I think it's, and you look at that, we've always kind of said as Century for real, but I mean, this is a Columbia team that took BK to the 4th quarter. I mean, and they blew them out. So, I mean, they have the capability, I think, to beat anyone. I do think Twin Falls is a tough draw for them. I think that's a tough matchup. I think just the defense that Twin Falls kind of puts out year to year with Coring, really good defensive coordinator, head coach, but also calls the defense. And they have a couple really good athletes that I don't know if maybe they're a team that they'd be the first to be able to, corral Magnum.
Yeah. So here's Sean Kane from the East Idaho Prepcast in the chat. He says mobile QBs are Twins' weakness. At least Sweetwood when they played Hillcrest, and Century has an explosive QB in Mangum. Maybe that could be the difference. Mr. Mystery says, I honestly didn't hate that matchup for Columbia, but I was definitely wrong. And Steven, to the delight of everyone in East Idaho, says it would be so awesome if we got Hillcrest, Century, Blackfoot, and Skyline in the semis.
No, it wouldn't. Nobody wants that.
I don't know. I think there are worse combinations of teams you could have. That would be, I think, a pretty decent one. So let's see who Century is going to have to play. It's Twin Falls. So Wyatt, how do you think this matchup goes?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably say Twin Falls, but that's just because, you know, I'm the Magic Valley representative on this, you know, and I, you know, I live in Twin Falls, and so it's just, I see them quite a bit, and I do like Coring. I think again, they played Hillcrest pretty tough, and Hillcrest is a tough team. And they get it at home, which is always going to be an advantage. But I mean, I love that matchup. It's definitely a game I think people should mark on, you know, and try to get there and watch and see whether they're falling on the Friday Night Flash or whatever. But I think that is really a really good matchup. But I'll probably go Twin.
Twin's a dangerous team, man. They really are. Like, they're playing better and better down the stretch.
They did. They pushed Hillcrest. I've said this a million times. They pushed Hillcrest a couple of weeks ago. The Knights did win by 2 scores, but you know, Twin, I really like Twin in this matchup. Now, Sean is saying, now again, Steven wants a Final Four of Hillcrest, Century, Blackfoot, and Skyline. Sean says Steven is a smart man. Of course, our East Idaho home are there. We will be broadcasting that game Friday night, Century and Twin Falls, by the way. We're sending our absolute best, Scott Burton, over to broadcast that game for us on IdahoSports.com. You know it's going to be a big game there.
Wyatt or chop liver.
It's all right. We'll just take our overtime and, you know, late game heroic games to watch.
That's right. Yeah,
that's right. I think honestly, the three of us did have the best games from the past weekend. I hope that continues again. The game I will single out, we're to the bottom half of the bracket now from the opening round. The game that really stood out to me, I would have to say, is, I guess, Sandpoint Minico, because we were kind of hard on Sandpoint last week. I'll admit, Sandpoint Bulldogs were barking at us a little bit. They did go all the way to Minico and get a 28-24 win on the road. Look at what Brock Yarborough did. I was kind of joking last week when I said he does everything, including driving the team bus, but I mean, geez Louise, guys. 12 catches, 137 yards, a touchdown, 6 tackles, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery on defense. Oh, and he went perfect 4 for 4 on point after kicks. Sandpoint goes and shuts everybody up. They get a win over Minico, 28-24. The Spartans hung in there pretty tough. Jaden Sanders had a really nice game. But Sandpoint gets the dub. They move on. They will now have another road game against Skyline. The Grizzlies, of course, they pretty much reserve the ICCU Dome in Pocatello this time of year. They love playing inside the Dome. They had the Dome game last week against Bonneville, a 42-21 win. The Grizzlies double up the Bees. And you're starting to see it here, Wyatt. Zion Crockett really starting to take over. They're still kind of, to me, they're still kind of keeping him on that pitch count. We talked about that this year where, you know, he's probably going to have 20 high-impact snaps a game, and they're trying to figure out between running back, receiver, kick returns, and defense, okay, what's the right combination of plays here to get Zion Crockett the most high-impact plays possible? Boy, 8 carries, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 catches, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I'd say he's in postseason mode.
Yeah, I mean, he is so dynamic. He's so fast. I saw a highlight where, I mean, he catches the ball and you're like, oh, that's going to be a great, 20, 25-yard gain. And he just outraces, beats all of the angles all the way to the end zone. And you're just like, wow, like that's not how I expected that to end. And so, I mean, what a nightmare for a defensive coordinator. You're worried about him lining up in the backfield. You're worried about him at slot. You're worried about him playing like outside on the X. I mean, that has got to be so tough. I mean, let alone, knowing where he is. I mean, just trying to simulate going against him in practice. I mean, it's impossible. And so you're just going into the game being like, all right, everybody talk, say where he is on every play and try to take away what you can. And I think, Skyline, with just the experience of coaching that they have and the years of experience that all those players have, they know how to win. They know how to put athletes in the right position to be successful. So it's a tough matchup for anybody.
I mean, always seem to find a way, right, Ryan?
Yeah. And I mean, we're talking about all this speed and everything. And I'm like, dude, does anybody remember who won the state 200 meter in track last year?
Is a Sandpoint kid, wasn't it?
It was Maverick Gomez. Yeah. So we're talking about speed. I mean, Sandpoint's got some speed. So, I mean, it's not too far off to say like, hey, how do you simulate it in practice? And I'm like, I mean, Maverick could be your guy. It's they face it every day. But I mean, Sandpoint's they are going to have, they're going to have their hands full with this team. And Zion Crockett is a phenomenal football player. I mean, just you watch Skyline tape, and he's the first kid that jumps off the film. And Sandpoint, if they've got an Achilles heel, sometimes it's in that front seven-ish, strong safety, start throwing in, like, where do you find your mismatches in the secondary, and you can take some shots against them on the back end. And I might get some Sandpoint fans poo-pooing on me for that, but they're going to have their hands full in that game. Sandpoint will, but I think Sandpoint also has a vaunted offense. They can get things moving in the right direction. I mean, they're going to have puncher's chances. They're going to have their opportunities for big plays too. I mean, and you mentioned Yarborough. Kid's a stud. I mean, he just does everything. Everything you ask of him.
Too. He punts too.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal kicker. And that's the one thing. I mean, he's a weapon out there that, like, you're almost, I don't want to say you're almost guaranteed to get points, but we saw them get backed up in the tiebreaker, and he walked out there cold without even warming up, and he buried his field goal, to start things off in the tiebreak last week. So, I mean, to have that type of weapon where you're guaranteed or have a high chance of getting some points, that's your opportunity. Sandpoint is going to have to win the line of scrimmage. End of story, period, right there. It's going to start and end with the offensive line and the defensive line for the Bulldogs. They're going to have to get pressure, and they're going to have to keep their back end of that defense, the linebackers especially, clean to have the angles at getting at Zion Crockett wherever he's at on the field. I mean, that game is going to come down to the trenches 100%. And if Skyline's able to win the line of scrimmage, the score will indicate it. It'll be pretty obvious. But if Sandpoint's going to have a chance in this ball game, they're going to have to be able to get creative on the defensive side of the ball, especially for coming up with a package to shut down Zion.
Yeah, Steven says Hillcrest shut Zion out until the last 3-4 minutes of the game. That was tough to watch. We'll see if Sandpoint can follow in Hillcrest's footsteps. And then at the very bottom of the bracket, or right above Skyline and Sandpoint, guys, we have Bishop Kelly and Blackfoot. Let's talk BK here. Actually, let's talk Blackfoot first. They had to go to Valley View, and we were all like, oh, man, the Falcons are always kind of a dangerous team in the playoffs, and they were pushing Blackfoot for several stretches of this game. But Wyatt, Blackfoot goes to Valley View. They are able to pick up the 24-13 victory, so they are moving on. Austin RV, managed the game well, but really this was the Cade Esplin show. 238 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. And then Riker Williams, 17 tackles defensively against Onyx Carson and company.
Yeah, I mean, it's Blackfoot has probably been, I mean, not probably even, but just the more consistent football team all season. Valley View's had a couple good wins, a couple, close games or something like that. But I mean, if you look at Blackfoot's schedule, I mean, they losses to Skyline, lost to Madison, a loss to Hillcrest. I mean, they beat everybody they were supposed to beat, you would think, right? I mean, some of those games were, theoretically you're punching up against a Skyline or a Hillcrest or a Madison, and they played those teams tough. And so I think, if they're kind of hitting their stride and this time of year, this is the time of year you want to be doing that. You don't want to be hitting your stride week 5. You want to be playing your best football here at the end of the year. And so, I think they're a team that's, well disciplined, well coached. And anytime you have a kid that's going to take 32 carries, I mean, you'd think about Bishop Kelly last year. They lost to a guy that had 50 carries in that game, Preston Sonner Cranny. So you don't want to give somebody that many carries again, and gash you.
Yeah, and that offensive line is so good for Blackfoot. I don't think Bishop Kelly's faced an offensive line that good this year. Let's talk about the Knights, though, Scaggs. They get the 56-13 win over Emmett. Banavella throws for 206 yards and 4 touchdowns, ran for a score. Ryan Ariano, 87 yards and a score. Dom Woltice, he's going to, I'm trying to remember, Idaho. It's one of the big universities. 97 yards, 3 touchdowns receiving. Okay, we know BK is good. Emmett was a little down. They were very injury depleted. They did a great job just getting to the playoffs and finishing 4-6 and grinding it out there. How do you think this Blackfoot Bishop Kelly matchup goes, Scaggs?
Of all the games, I mean, we kind of have this like side pick, contest with Sean and Hayden and I and a few others. I picked Blackfoot. I don't feel confident in my pick at all. I picked BK, and I'm not confident in that pick. I think Blackfoot's going to be able to push him. I really do. I think especially up front, like you nailed it, BK has not seen an offensive line like this. I know that they played Rigby. I still think Blackfoot's line is right up there, if not better. And so, like game in the trenches. I mean, Benevilla's he's just a game. I don't want to say game manager because I think that undercuts his ability. I think he's a very good quarterback. But he does a great job just staying in the moment and not doing too much to put his team in a disadvantage or cause like a turnover or something like that, or put his team behind the sticks too often. The most consistent team is going to win this game. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this come down to the final possession or two of the ball game. I mean, that's where I stand on this one.
Okay. Be very interesting. For Blackfoot, they are seeking their first trip to the semifinals since 2021. Century. Yeah, Century. It's been 2020. Last time they got to the semis, they took out Bishop Kelly in the quarterfinal round that year. So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting matchups here at the 6A level. And Steven says, we are all Bronco fans this week. BK versus the world, that is for sure. Well, if we're all Bronco fans this week, just a sneak peek to the 4A bracket, then we are all Snake River fans this week also, because, well, the Diggers just keep on rolling along. It'll be their postseason opener. So we will take a look at the 4A bracket right after this. You're watching Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
Once again, we have contributed to your ideal college savings program. Love, Grandma and Grandpa.
Ideal. Eventually, they'll appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. I love it.
College costs money.
All right, welcome back. Ryan, you can take off if you want to for our 4A discussion. Just hop back in whenever you want to. We'll see you later. Okay, Wyatt, it's just you and me here for the 4A discussion. So this will be a lot of fun. Let's take a look here on Gem State Game Day live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. Here is the 4A bracket. Let's see if I can get a better bracket up that doesn't have an ad clipped on it. I'll be back in 1 second here. But we've got a question in the chat here. Mark Johnson, 8300 on YouTube, wants to know, are the top four right? Homedale only lost to Fruitland, the number one team in the state, and Sugar's only loss was to Star Valley. Yeah, we were kind of talking pre-show that it does seem like there's kind of a clear divide. There's the top four, and then there's the other four.
Yeah, I think Fruitland being undefeated, I think that they beat everyone on their schedule pretty handily. They beat Homedale by quite a bit. And Sugar played a few teams, but they played up a couple 5A teams, Preston and Shelley, but those are kind of lower level 5A teams. So, but they beat everyone. And so except for Star Valley, I think the top four is probably seated right. Kimberly's there at 4 and they lost to the 3 ahead of them. So I think in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it's about right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if I can get that 4A bracket back up on the screen here. Then we'll talk about the first round games that took place. Because there were some interesting matchups in terms of what the final spread was. There you go. There's a good 4A bracket. Nice and clean. So we've got Buell over McCall Donnelly, 45-19. American Falls beat Bonners Ferry, 28-21 in that really close game you were on the call for, Wyatt. Snake River had their hands full with Gooding, but got out with a 34-21 win. And then Weiser, no problems with Teton, 47-21. Let's start with that American Falls Bonners Ferry game, because that's the game that you were at, Wyatt. It came down to basically the end of the game. Bonners Ferry had the ball. It was an incomplete pass, but there was a penalty for, I believe, was it a face mask? Personal. Yeah, so that led to one untimed down. Bonners Ferry had a chance to throw it into the end zone. They complete the pass, but they throw it short. And so because of that, American Falls gets to walk out of there with the win. Mr. Mystery says, I'm going to go with Fruitland, Kimberly, Sugar, and Homedale, the top 4 seeds. Those are his picks. Titus Osterman in the chat from Kimberly saying we're going to have a good time with American Falls in that quarterfinal matchup as well. But before we talk about the matchup with Kimberly and American Falls, let's recap that American Falls Bonners Ferry game. So 28-21 was the final score. What were your takeaways from this game, Wyatt?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost for American Falls, I think, it's just the player of the game was Zach Grigg, and he's been their guy all year. I mean, he's defensively everywhere. I think he's one of, if not the state leader in picks, if I'm not mistaken. He took a pick to the house for a pick six. He ran the ball. He threw the ball. It was super impressive. He is such a dynamic kid. You would maybe look at him and think he's a bit undersized, but he plays well above his weight class. He's very quick and really deceptive. So I think it's great for him to be able to get that win for American Falls. On the other side, Bonners Ferry, I mean, you had Keenan Mass, who's just a stud. He's led the state in rushing 1,500 yards on the season. And I think they had a good game plan. They came in, played well. I mean, coming all the way from Bonners Ferry, but it was a great atmosphere there for American Falls, and they've been in a few close games, and they were able to get that win there.
Yeah, they got this far last year. They had to go to Moscow and got a win over the Bears in the opening round. So it was nice that they got to host somebody from North Idaho this time. So American Falls does move on. Ty Smith might be one of the most underrated defenders in not just 4A, but the state. Led all defenders last year in total tackles, 13 tackles in this game. And then big Fred Murillo on the defensive line as well, 5 tackles and a fumble recovery. Very quietly, American Falls' front seven is pretty stout. So if we look at the matchup here, they're going to take on Kimberly, a Kimberly team that is now well rested. McCrae Bruning has been back for a couple of weeks now. They've got all the toys in the toy box, like Titus Osterman, like Joe Barrett, like Johnny Millenkamp. The defense is stout. This is going to be, I think, who can limit the other team's explosive plays, because Kimberly and American Falls both have explosive athletes. I think it's going to be who can limit those big plays.
Yeah, I think it's going to be important for Kimberly to, American Falls with their triple option, they have a couple dynamic kids, Zach Grigg running the ball. So, when you're playing a triple option team, you have to be sound. Otherwise, any play can break. If you don't go with the dive or you don't go with the pitch, any play can score. So Kimberly's going to need to be really disciplined there. And on the other side, I mean, I think as Kimberly's kind of gone on through conference, they've kind of found their running game a little bit. They've allowed Bruning to run the ball some more. They have a stable of running backs with Mellencamp and Liam Browning. So I think if they can kind of be, if they're more dimensional and they can throw the ball with the sheer amount of athletes that they have, then it's going to be tough for American Falls, but it should be a great night. Hopefully good weather, and excited for some football.
For sure. Okay, let's go to what I thought was the most interesting game outside of American Falls Bonners Ferry. And that was Buell and McCall Donnelly, actually. That was the game that I was really intrigued by. Not because Buell won. Buell obviously is very good this year at 7-2, but the way they won. They took a McCall Donnelly team that I thought was pretty good, actually. If you look at they're 5-5, you got to remember they lost to Homedale, Weiser, Fruitland. I mean, they're in a very rigorous conference. I was very surprised that Buell kind of took it to McCall Donnelly and put this one away early. Fabi Pierce, 171 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Dallas Price chipped in with 102 yards and 2 scores. And to me, it's kind of interesting. Buell last year, Wyatt, was a team that really prided themselves on slinging the ball around with Zach Azevedo. This year, they've leaned a little more on the run game, but either way, last year, this year, however you slice it, defensively, they've been pretty good.
Yeah, I think they've changed a little bit as the year has kind of gone on, and they put Fabi in kind of a wildcat formation. He is really a dynamic kid, a really good athlete, a really good wrestler. So I think it's, them finding more opportunities to feed him the ball and allow him to, create some space and be successful. And then you kind of get more of a 1-2 punch. So with him in Dallas, they have a couple really good kids. They have a couple kids that got looks to go play college football. So I think they can be a tough matchup for some teams. They will run, and then play action. And, they have Porter Higley, who's a really big physical tight end that can run and catch the ball. So I think at times it can provide some really difficult matchups for teams. And obviously that was the case with McCall. I think, just seeing some of the McCall things, I think I've seen a few of their games, and the sideline didn't seem like they had a lot of depth. I think they struggled, and they had a lot of kids playing both ways. I mean, their quarterback playing DN and quarterback, and so I think sometimes the war of attrition can get to you, especially later on in the season.
Can we just give a quick shout out to Joker Joyce? 28 tackles on defense. He had to be sore after because these are big boys that were the lineup in that Buell backfield. Mark Johnson, 8,300, wants to know, wasn't Joker Joyce the Teton stud? Yes, he was. His dad, David Joyce, was the coach at Teton as well. And then Teton, for some inexplicable reason, after 3 playoff appearances in 4 years, including a semifinals and a championship appearance, decided not to renew his contract. So Teton's loss was McCall Donnelly's gain. David Joyce just completed his first year as the head coach of the Vandals. Joker Joyce just wrapped up his high school career as a McCall Donnelly Vandal. So that's the story there. But it is Buell moving on. And so the Indians will now get their crack at number 1 Fruitland. Boy, Fruitland has looked so good. They just seem to, the last couple of games that have been, with against good teams, Wyatt, it's tight for a half. And then the second half, they just kind of steadily pull away. And you look up and all of a sudden you're like, oh, Fruitland's got 40 points and we're still at like 28. It just seems to happen every game.
Well, I mean, we know about, Titus Vidlak, and they have a couple really good running backs and receivers, but I mean, their O-line, D-line is so deep, and they have so many guys, and they are big guys. I mean, we know about Kevin Oblak, the big left tackle that they have, but I mean, they have other guys that are almost as big as him, or bigger than him. So I mean, they just have all these big guys, and I think that just again weighs on teams as you push on the O-line and the D-line, and you're kind of going back and forth, and you get into halftime and you feel beat up, and they got more in the tank. And then you add on to that a really dynamic quarterback that is going to distribute the ball well with a couple of really good receivers that can catch in space and make a play. So it's a formidable team that it makes it difficult for anybody to match up with.
Yeah. And for Buell, it's going to have to be a low possession game, I think, if they want to go into Fruitland and do the impossible, as it were. Low possession game, limit the amount that Titus Vidlak has the ball in his hands. And so we'll see. Mr. Mystery says, only upset I could see is Weiser potentially over Homedale. So let's talk about it. Weiser had a nice win over Teton in the opening round of the playoffs. This was a Saturday game out in Weiser, 40-21 the final. Ty Cobb, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Nate Herrera Garcia, 3 catches, 3 touchdowns. That's pretty good. They really, Luke Nelson got his yardage, 226 yards and 3 touchdowns for Teton through the air. But look at the completions, Wyatt, 14 of 34. That's a credit, I think, to that Weiser defensive line making things uncomfortable for Nelson.
Yeah, never count out a team coached by Harrison. I mean, it's so tough. And, you always look at their stat lines, and they always have, a running back with a lot of yards, and, a receiver or two with one or, just a few catches, but quite a few yards. I mean, 3 catches for 3 touchdowns. That's so awesome. That's so cool. So, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to match up against them, and they do what they do, and they do it well. So I think they definitely believe that they could beat anybody on any given day.
Yeah, in the chat here, Bridger Summers wants to know, hey, are we going to talk about 5 and 6A tonight? Bridger, you missed it. We already talked about those classifications, but you can go back on replay and watch. We always start with 6A and work our way down. So we had a lot of good 6A, 5A conversation earlier on in the show tonight. And, of course, you can watch this on replay anytime at IdahoSports.com's YouTube channel, Facebook page, or X account. So there's the story there. Okay, so it's Weiser taking on Homedale. This, of course, is a rematch from the regular season. They're both in the Snake River Valley Conference. Homedale only won 24-14, Wyatt. The key, I thought, in that game was because both running games were held fairly in check. Cole Ingle had 128 yards and 2 touchdowns, but it came on 18 carries. Javid blew it, only had 40 yards on 10 carries, so the Weiser defense did pretty good there. The key, I thought, was that Homedale passing game. This is what Homedale loves to do. They pound the ball, they lull you to sleep, and then whoever's at quarterback takes a deep shot. And Xavier Uranga completed 9 of 14 passes for 181 yards and 3 touchdowns in that victory. He did throw 2 interceptions as well. So, 10-point game when they played in the regular season. What does Weiser have to do to tilt it in their favor this time around?
Yeah, I think you said it right. Uranga is a really good passer. I think he's in really good control of that offense. Homedale does such a good job of making the same play look like 5 different plays. They'll have bunch formations and they'll motion every time and they'll look to the sideline and get a different call. And, they do such a good job with that. And that's what the whole tree does, is such a good job with his team. And, they've had a lot of success. So, so if you're Weiser, you just got to get Homedale out of schedule. If you can get him into 3rd and longs, obvious passing downs, it makes it a little bit easier where you're not, surprised by the pass. So, if it's a 3rd and 10 and they, they're not able to go and, you're forcing them, they can't go for it on 4th down because they're, on the other side of the 50. So that's the game plan. It's all nice and fun to say that, but it's executing it. I think an underrated part of that team is Lucas Hall, their tight end for Homedale. He's had a couple of really good games where he's had multiple touchdowns. He's a tough matchup. He's a big body. He's 6'5", and so he's a good blocker. So you have to have someone there in his face, and then he goes out for a pass and can catch it over the top of you. So, I think that's a tough matchup, and I'd probably lean towards Homedale, but like I said, just probably because they're at home. But Weiser's so tough, and again, they're going to be similar to Homedale. They have multiple looks, multiple formations that it's the same play, but it looks like 5 different ones.
Yeah. Lucas Hall, part of what I call the big 3 kickers and punters this year. Sawyer McClendon from Rocky Mountain, Ryland Borgman from Hillcrest, and then Lucas Hall from Homedale, all kind of Division I caliber kickers and punters this year in the state of Idaho as well. Hey, here in the chat, we've got Willie Lake, the head girls basketball coach from Fruitland. This can't be my favorite Melba kid talking here, right? No way. It's the Wyatt Helm.
If I did play against Fruitland, I think he was actually at New Plymouth when I was, he was coaching basketball there and stuff like that. So I always enjoyed it. He was always like, I take 5 Wyatts. I was the kid that I don't pass me the ball. I'll just play defense. Let me, don't make me shoot. I'll make a layup or 2, but I'll just play defense.
You're a glue guy.
Yeah.
No doubt. All right. Well, our final matchup is Snake River, Sugar Salem. This will be Thursday night in the ICCU Dome on IdahoSports.com. Snake River had their hands full with Gooding in that opening round. 34-21. They kind of steadily pulled away. Zed Hancock, sophomore running back, I got to be honest, was not on my radar this season. He comes out and runs it 14 times for 121 yards and a touchdown. Royal Daly kind of rallies up the troops defensively, and Bryden Mortensen does enough on the ground, 151 yards and a touchdown rushing and an interception on defense as well. I guess that's the thing with Snake River. They've kind of got an embarrassment of riches here. They've got the Preston Wardley kid. They've got Mortensen, Royal Daly, Cougar Stockham and Bridger Pope kind of balled out there, 3 touchdowns between the duo for Gooding. They just ran out of gas a little bit there, but I guess Snake River got the win. That's the most important thing here, Wyatt.
Yeah, if you were to just put your hand over the score and looked at the stats, you'd say, wow, Gooding probably won that game. Anybody throwing for 309 yards and losing by multiple scores, that's pretty crazy. Those were probably big explosive plays, and props to Snake River for to get out there and have that win, and they run the ball well. They've I think changed a few times, just even from last year to this year with injuries and different things. I think they've kind of figured out their team. I think they're a bit better of a team than where they were early when they played the team that they're going to play this next week. So I'm not going to say they necessarily beat Sugar by any means, but I think they're a bit better of a team. I think they have a better identity than they were early in the year.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Coach Lake says, you are a grown man. Thanks for all you do, guys. Go Grizz. Yep. So if we look at that bracket again, it does kind of, on the outside, looks like Fruitland and Sugar Salem are maybe headed for a collision, possibly in the state championship. They got a long way to go to get there first. Sugar Salem has been off for a couple weeks, so out of sight, out of mind. The last time they played was back on October 24th, actually, against Teton, a game they won 54-8. Their only loss this year came to Star Valley, Wyoming, 28-21. It's kind of a new cast of characters for Sugar Salem this year. They lost so much from the championship team last year, and yet, it doesn't really seem to matter too much. Frank Fillmore is a good dual threat quarterback. Ace Clark kind of leads the receiver room. Kimball Tonks has had a really nice season at running back. The defense continues to just take away the ball in bunches. I guess Snake River they have to kind of like the game plan for Buell, keep it very low possession. They have to capitalize on almost every drive. It's a very tough way to win. It is a winning formula, but it's tough to execute.
Yeah, I think it's similar to kind of what I talked about with Homedale and again, it's way easier said than done, but you just try to force the team into obvious passing downs, right? I think Sugar will open up and go into a little bit of a spread look at times, but of course their bread and butter is getting in tight and getting a few yards and kind of enforcing their will. So and Fillmore's a good quarterback. He's dynamic and he's an athlete. He can throw the ball. But again, if you have any puncher's chance, you got to try to force them into an obvious passing down where it's third and long, and then they've got to punt because they're behind the sticks or they're deeper into their on the other side of the field, and so I think that's what they got to try to do. And if it means anything, I mean it's in the dome, so you can take elements out of it. There's not going to be snow or wind or anything like that. You're just playing them straight up. So, but again, it's Sugar's home away from home. So we talked about that with Skyline. Those kids have played so many games in that spot, and they know exactly what's expected of them. And until somebody comes in and beats them, they just are always going to be expected to be the state champion.
Yeah, Sugar Salem, their defense this year, 15 interceptions defensively. Good luck. That's a tough nut to crack for sure. Okay, the most exciting batch of quarterfinal games, I think, personally, is at the Class 3A level. We will get into what look like just incredible matchups across the board. Could go any type of direction. All the road teams might win. All the home teams might win. We'll unpack it all when Gem State Game Day rolls on right after this break. The 3A breakdown coming your way next here on IdahoSports.com.
Once again, we have contributed to your ideal college savings program. Love, Grandma and Grandpa.
Ideal. Eventually, they'll appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. I love it.
College costs money.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day, live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. Getting ready for our Class 3A discussion. Brandon Baney here with Wyatt Helm tonight, and rejoining us is Ryan Scaggs. Did I see you taking a pull out of a coffee cup there before we came on?
Oh, it's hot cider.
Okay, sure. Hey, you know why I love 3A football, guys? Because it's where the diehards are. Look at the comments already in here. Andrew Olinger, go West Side, and shout out to Bryson McDaniel. Here's Gabe Montero. Let's go, Ryrie Bulldogs. We want to hear from you, the fans. Throw your favorite, give a shout out to your favorite team, player, coach in the comments. We will throw it up on the screen. That's right. Here's Kennedy Caldwell. Go New Plymouth. Yes, and the matchups are just chef's kiss. Let's take a look at this bracket because this is the matchup. This is the classification I've been waiting to talk about because all of the matchups are so even. You've got from the opening round, North Fremont beats Firth 54-0. Aberdeen beats Melba 28-6. West Jefferson gets Malad by a point, 21-20. Came down to an extra point. And then New Plymouth goes and upsets Declo on the road, 24-14. So the matchups are New Plymouth and Ryrie, Aberdeen, Priest River, West Jefferson, and West Side, and North Fremont hosting Nampa Christian. So Nampa Christian, Priest River, Ryrie, and West Side had the first round byes. Wyatt, which game jumped out to you from that 3A opening round the most?
Yeah, I'd say, I think at first glance, it's got to be that Declo New Plymouth score. Sometimes there's been times where it's like a flipped score or something like that, and you're like, oh, you see it first on maybe Friday night, and then on Saturday it's flipped the other way, and you're like, oh, it must have been a mistake or something like that. But yeah, Declo's had a tough season, and I say that in the sense of they have really good athletes. We know Declo; they're well coached. They have a sophomore playing quarterback, which is always going to give you a little bumps and bruises, going through. And they scheduled really tough. They played Teton, a division up. They played Buell, a division up. They played Nampa Christian in the regular season. And then they got to play the West Sides, the Aberdeens, and, Malad, which is a playoff team. And, so you start playing all these teams, and that's tough. It's tough to string together, and especially in this level of football. I played in the old 2A. You only have so many kids on the team, and so when you get some injuries or some bumps and bruises, there's the depth is not going to be there.
Well, Kennedy Caldwell thinks upset alert. Go Braxton M. That's Braxton Mouter, the great sophomore running back. 11 carries, 89 yards, and a touchdown. I believe it's his older brother, Cam Mouter, threw for 101 yards and a touchdown in the win. Cam is a senior. And Ryan, I think the most impressive thing for me was New Plymouth defensively. They took Dane Gerard, Declo's main cog on offense, and held him to 36 yards on just 10 carries.
Yeah, I mean, being able to neutralize a pretty dynamic running back and a team like Wyatt said, I mean, they scheduled super heavy this year, and it was a team that was battle tested. And, New Plymouth coming into this game, I kind of looked at their schedule, and you hem and haw a little bit. You're like, I don't really know too much about, did they get tested enough? I mean, and it was a team that mainly I watched them when they played Grangeville and just manhandled them. Excuse me. So, yeah, to be able to do that to Declo the first round of the playoffs, I mean, just a huge showing from this New Plymouth team that's just been seemingly finding ways to win and winning the gritty games all year. And it's a team that, they've earned their ticket into this round, and they're going to, give people all they can handle. I mean, they don't wow you in the stat line necessarily, but it's just a team that plays good team football. They're disciplined and they take care of the ball. They don't turn it over a ton. And you get that in the postseason, it's going to, do good things for you. They're going to have a really tough draw against a very, very good Ryrie team in this first round, though.
Yeah, the Ryrie running Bulldogs. They run that double wing offense that is so hard to defend. Last year, they had both of their wing backs go over 1,000 yards on the ground. That was the goal again this year. Coulter Lewis has done it, 1,549 yards. Van Noy is close, 826 yards. Maybe a good game or two in the playoffs, and he could get there as well. Wyatt, this is going to be now New Plymouth, by far the toughest team they have played all season long. How do they break through and beat Ryrie?
Yeah, I mean, it's just again, it's limiting possessions. You go over there again. It's at the Dome, so the elements aren't involved there. But it's tough. I mean, Ryrie does such a good job, and for as good as a couple of those kids are on offense, they're really good on defense too. I knew there were some people that had went and watched them play at Melba earlier in the year, and they were telling me that they'd throw the ball in the air and there was just they'd flow to it and they just would go get a pick or go get there, and it's just and that was one of their first games that they I don't think people had really believed in Ryrie yet at that point. And so you look at some of the common opponent, Melba and New Plymouth had a really close, tight game, and Ryrie handled Melba pretty well at Melba, so it's going to be an uphill battle for sure, but Ryrie just looking to kind of do something they haven't really done, and that's playing late in November.
Yep. Mr. Mystery giving his predictions here. I'd say Ryrie, Aberdeen, West Side, and Nampa Christian. We'll see. It was an all East Idaho Final Four last year. We'll see if it is an East Idaho Final Four again this year. So, Scaggs, outside of the Declo New Plymouth game, what was the first round game that caught your eye from the 3A ranks?
I mean, just looking at it from score-wise, it was got to be the West J Malad game, 21-20. And I guess for me, I'm more shocked that Malad made it as gritty of a game as it was, because I thought going in and West J was just going to blow the doors off of them. And Malad did a great job defensively, kind of bottling things up. Yeah, I know Mac Hall had 127 yards in the game, but you're only limiting your quarterback to 2 of 7 passing and only 2 rushes for 2 yards, and 4 rushes for 52 yards from Calder. I mean, Malad did everything they could do to try to win that game, and I think West J kind of willed themselves into the win there, and getting the dub. And we talked about it back in 6A, like winning ugly. I mean, a win is a win at this time of the year, and sometimes you just have those games where things aren't jiving too well, and you just find a way to get it done. And West Jefferson got the victory in that one, but Malad, hats off in that one. Played a great game, 106 yards from your running back, 3 touchdowns on the ground. Obviously the limiting factor, I really look at those, 2 of 6 passing and 2 interceptions. That's the dividing line in this game. It was the turnovers that ended up nipping them in the bud.
Yeah, those 2 interceptions from Easton Green were significant. This was, the best non-IdahoSports.com game of the weekend. The best games were the 3 we were at. We've already established that. But this one was the best of the rest. West Jefferson was trailing in this game 20-13 with about 4 minutes to go. And West J has to drive the field. They convert on a 4th down to keep the drive alive. They get the, game-tying score, and then they decide to go for the 2-point conversion and the lead instead of kicking the extra point and going for the tie 2020. And they get the 2-point conversion. The gutsy call pays off for Corey Hall, the head coach there. And so West J moving on. Yeah, here's Sean in the chat. West J 4-minute drive got the go-ahead 2-point conversion. That's exactly what happened. And so now you've got a battle of West territories, West Side and West Jefferson. This is going to be, to me, one of the best postseason atmospheres I've been at as a broadcaster is West Side. They just get it going. The pep band's there. The fans are there. The bleachers are packed. West Side loves packing the home stadium and then moving inside to the Dome for the semifinals and championship. This is going to be a really interesting matchup. Both these teams love to run the football. Drake Sage has had a great year for West Side. Micah Benavidez as well. That's a good 1-2 punch in the West Side wing T backfield. Jaden Fuller does a pretty good job on that play action passing game for West Side as well. This, to me, Wyatt, is, okay, which defense can, like we saw in the Malad West J game, which defense can come up with a couple of takeaways that might tilt it in their favor?
Yeah, I think that game's going to probably get over pretty quick. I think I think that game will move pretty fast. So as long as they're not running out of bounds, I don't think there's going to be a lot of balls on the ground. So I think it should be an interesting game. I'm always going to probably lean with experience. West Side, just the historic, run that they've been on for so many years in a row now. But they've looked a little bit human this year, and maybe that gives West Jefferson a little bit of confidence and a little bit of belief, and that's good for them. But in that situation, I'll probably side with the Pirates.
Yeah, you said the experience there. West Jefferson, guys, has not been to the semifinal round of the playoffs since 1993. And you look at West Side, they have been in the semifinals every year since 2010, with the exception of 2015 and 16. They had a slight blip there where they were. So, that's 13 of the past 15 years. West Side has been in at least the semifinals, oftentimes further than that. West J has not been in the semifinals since 1993. So history definitely on West Side's side there. I was
still a few years from even being born. So, it's a long time ago. I'd be old if you were alive then.
Right. As you say that to 2 guys who were alive in 1993. The game I am going to hone in on, guys, from that opening round is Melba and Aberdeen. This was a Saturday game, and you might look at first and go, well, geez, Aberdeen only beat Melba 28-6. And Aberdeen goes, yeah, that's what we do. We go on these really long, time-consuming drives that just sap your will to live and just absolutely just suck the life out of you. And they always cash in on them. I've talked about this last year with Aberdeen as well. When they execute it at 100%, they're almost impossible to beat because it's low possession game. They cash in on every drive. You have to play perfectly to match Aberdeen. But sometimes all it takes is 1 or 2 empty possessions and Aberdeen's game plan goes completely out the window. So they got the 28-6 win over Melba. Eric Alvarez was the IdahoSports.com player of the game with 2 rushing touchdowns. Tannen Nelson, who is a great linebacker and tight end, mostly blocks. They gave him a little love at the end of the game, got him in at fullback, got a rushing score there as well. So now it's Aberdeen moving on to, again, all the teams that are in the quarterfinals, for the most part, are running the rock. Like, all of these games could be over fairly quickly. This is going to be a fun one on Saturday at Priest River. I will be there broadcasting this game for IdahoSports.com. Aberdeen and Priest River. Now, Scaggs, you've seen Priest River this season. They have a great 1-2 backfield as well with Colton Caprinko and Nate Fager.
Yeah,
right?
Nate Fager. Yeah. And that's a team too. And if they're at full strength, I mean, their offensive line, I would say, probably averages 260 up front. I mean, they're a big unit. And, I mean, they got to – if they're at full – and I say this kind of with the asterisk, the bye came at the right time to try to get everybody back. And Nate Fager and Caprenko, I mean, they're a phenomenal 1-2 punch in the backfield. Caprenko is just a tough, downhill guy, one cut and go type runner. Fager will try to get around the outside edge and outrun guys. And then the other thing, too, that gets kind of overlooked, Lucas Matthews is a pretty good passer. Like, he can actually throw the ball pretty well for this group. And they've got, some big, targets out there. Nicky Porenchak, the tight end, is a big target for this offense. And then they've got some speed on the outside, too. So, it's not like they're just a one-trick pony, but they do love to run the ball, especially if it's going to be rainy and nasty and slippery up there. But they got the new field, the new turf. And not AstroTurf, but new grass put in the offseason. And I was kind of joking around during our game. I was like, there's things that when you're a nerd about football that you notice. And I'm like, that's a good crown on the field. Like, you look at it like, that thing's going to drain well. And so you'll be able to see if it's raining Saturday up there, it's been wet. You'll be able to see how well that field's been draining off because it's got a nice tall crown to it. And it's a beautiful facility since they redid it. But getting Aberdeen on the road with Priest River running the ball, that you might have a 37-minute first half.
Yeah. Here is, I believe, assistant coach Brandon Goins. He says, we're good to go at Priest River. Everyone's back. So this will be a fantastic matchup. Really, this bracket here, you've got the usual suspects of Aberdeen, West Side, North Fremont. They've all been to the semifinals fairly recently, Aberdeen and West Side last year. And then you've got the long droughts, right? We talked about West Jefferson. They haven't been to the semis since 1993. Guys, not only has Priest River never been to the semifinals, they have never won a game in the playoffs. They are 0-4 career in the postseason. They haven't gotten to the playoffs a lot, which makes this back-to-back postseason appearance really special for Priest River last year and this year. But they're playing for history here. First trip possibly to the semifinals in school history. And, oh, by the way, Ryrie, the number 1 seed, they've never been to the semifinals either. They only have one career playoff win under their belt, and that was last year in the opening round against Marcy. So there are some streaks that potentially could be snapped here that I'm really excited about in terms of history.
And how about an East Idaho team having to go north? I mean, that's kind of like that's
finally.
I think it's one of the only ones we've seen. Where someone from the East has to go north. That's crazy.
It's about time.
Yeah, and let's not forget, this was the matchup last year, right? Priest River had made the playoffs. They had to go to Aberdeen in the first round, and Aberdeen kind of imposed their will and ran over them a little bit. And I think that was kind of an eye-opener for Priest River, and they said, okay, that's what a Final Four team looks like. And then they hit the weight room in the offseason. And so I'm real. Yes. Yeah. Yep. I'm really excited for that one. Okay. Let's wrap up North Fremont. No problem with Firth. If we're being honest here, I like Firth. I really like Coach Rigo Vasquez. I don't know if Firth deserved to be in the playoffs here. Max Prep's got him in there, but honestly, I don't know if any of the teams at the bottom of the 3A, would have done any better in this spot, but 54-0, North Fremont gets the win. Andrew Martin, Owen Reed, both rush for over 100 yards. Cam Schulberg does his thing on the defensive line. I mean, Grant Vasquez is kind of the featured back in the Firth offense, 14 yards rushing. Bryson Anderson, the quarterback, 2 carries for -15 yards. I mean, the North Fremont defense just absolutely put on a clinic. And now they have to play Nampa Christian. This is kind of an interesting bracket, guys, where North Fremont is the 3 seed and the home team, but because Nampa Christian is the district champion, they get to host the game. I guess at that point, the seeds are fairly meaningless then. Like, you might as well just make Nampa Christian the 3 seed if they're the one that's hosting it. I guess that's my view on it. But North Fremont's going to make the trip over to Nampa Christian. Wyatt, what do you think of this matchup?
No, I find it really interesting. I think Nampa Christian has kind of quietly been a really good team this year. They've played a couple good teams and done well. It's just been a while since a team from District 3 or anyone outside of basically 4, well, Declo basically in 4, but 5 and 6 just dominate that lower division. So, but Nampa Christian's got a couple really good athletes. They have O'Brien, who's a really good receiver, and DB. They have Ian Johnson as a running back who's, wins state in all of his events at track. Just a really, really dynamic athlete. They have really good athletes. So I'm curious how they kind of go up against with North Fremont. I think the game being at home is an advantage for Nampa Christian. They get to be on that side of the state. I think that's out of all of the matchups, I think it's the most intriguing. I think it's going to tell you a lot. I think the team that wins that will go to the championship. I think if whoever wins that matchup is gonna, I would take over West Side and be in the championship game. So I think it's a really big, important game for them. I'm really curious to see how it goes.
Yeah, Ryan, what do you think of this matchup?
Oh, you're muted.
Yep.
Thank you, because I was coughing. North Fremont, Nampa Christian, I think it's kind of a tightened matchup. You nailed it there with just you look at body of work and resume coming into this matchup, and you can see I could see that as a semifinal game. And so Nampa Christian, being at home, I think is a big advantage. How big of an advantage is it going to be? Defense travels, and so. North Fremont does a tremendous job on the defensive side, and they've just won some games that you kind of look at and you're like, how in the world? Like, what are we doing here? And then there's some times where you're like, we still haven't really figured them out, even though they're 8-2. Like, you just don't know a ton about them. But the one thing is they're only giving up under 10 points a game, and you playing like that, lights out on the defensive end, and you're able to, hold back some good running teams. Minus the Ryrie game, getting blanked 20-0, but some huge wins along the way. Beating a good West Jefferson team. But, you kind of look at the front end of that schedule too, and you're like, well, how well did they get pushed early in the year? South Fremont with Bear Lake, Marsh Valley, Teton, and Salmon, it's like, and then the games that they're supposed to be, pushing people around, they end up dropping the game, the kind of the head scratcher to Aberdeen, and then losing to Ryrie, getting shut out. Nampa Christian could come in here and I think pull a shocker. I think that if you're going to look at a big upset game of all of the ones that are in the bracket, this is the one I would probably circle, saying this is where the upset could take place, with Nampa Christian beating North Fremont.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. Gabe Montero in the chat says Ryrie's Ian Johnson, best fullback in the state. Got a good O-line blocking for him too, Gabe. And I know Gabe's a part of that offensive and defensive line up there for Ryrie. Hey, Mr. Mystery, Ryan knows what's up. All
Mr.
right,
Mystery just gave away where he's at.
you got the endorsement there, Ryan, for your candidacy. I was looking this up, Wyatt, because you mentioned East Idaho just dominates at this level, it seems like, since 2020. So the last 5 seasons, that would be 20 semifinal teams. 19 of the 20 have come from either Declo or East Idaho. Can you tell me the one team that didn't? And the last time it wasn't an all East Idaho Final Four.
That's interesting. Was it Melba?
It was your Melba Mustangs in 2023.
Yeah. Let's go.
So, okay. We'll see. A lot of history could be made this weekend in the 3A ranks. Very excited about it. Okay, guys, for the postseason editions of Gem State Game Day, we are quickly going over all of the 8-man action as well. We will do that, Class 2A and 1A, right after this break. It's Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
As Idahoans, we're not afraid to take risks.
All the way. Do it. Go. All the way down.
Driving under the influence is not a risk we're willing to take. Be around to do more of what you love.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day, live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. If you're hanging out with us live tonight, if you could please like, share, and follow. This will help everyone who wasn't here live find things a little easier on replay. Okay, let's move into 8-man football. And again, we're just going to quickly kind of go through these matchups. If you want a more detailed analysis of what's happening in the Class 2A and 1A playoffs at the 8-man level, you'll want to check out the Idaho 8-man Prepcast tomorrow night on all of these same platforms, YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram. We'll start that at 7 o'clock Mountain Time, 6 o'clock Pacific Time tomorrow night here on IdahoSports.com. It's the Idaho 8-man Prepcast, where we talk exclusively 8-man football. Here is the 2A bracket, guys. You had some fairly lopsided scores. North Idaho kind of dominated. Kamei beats Glens Ferry 86-22. Logos over Oakley 62-12. Prairie and Valley in a fun one. Prairie got up big. Valley rallied late 50-44. Prairie hangs on. And then Hagerman, avoids the north sweep. They hold serve over Potlatch 64-20. So if we look at kind of just the final box scores and the final totals from these 2A games, we'll just go kind of in chronological order of how the day started. And Ryan, that means it was the most exciting game, actually, that Prairie Valley matchup. This one kicked off Friday afternoon. Prairie hangs on to win 50-44. Levi Gehring had a nice day offensively and defensively. Cade Quintal made just enough plays. And Brant Jones, despite over 400 yards of offense, 200 through the air, 200 on the ground, and 5 touchdowns, Valley just couldn't quite make up the deficit. And Coach Ryan Hasselstrom delivers Prairie's first playoff win since 2020, believe it or not.
Wow. It kind of seems like, we used to call Prairie all the time, like being in the playoffs, getting the first win since 2020 is a huge deal. Coach Hass has done a great job with this group. And, he got great QB play from Cade Quintal in that one in the win. And I was talking to kind of listening in when we were setting up for the Lewiston-Lakeland game, listening and watching in with Hayden on the call with that one with Ty Kep. And, Prairie kind of jumped out to kind of a gaudy lead. And Valley came storming back and made the game interesting late. And Prairie just kept finding a way to get scores and kind of keep the distance far enough to keep Valley at arm's length. But Prairie, very nice showing offensively, very consistent both sides of the ball in passing and rushing attack. Gehring had a monster game on the defensive side of the ball, like you said. This Prairie team's they're really good. We'll obviously talk about the juggernaut, kind of the looming giant in the room here in a minute. But outside of that, there's 3 other teams from the White Pine that are extremely good teams that could be playing, the other White Pine team, come state championship time too.
Yep. So Prairie kicked off Friday afternoon, 1 o'clock local time. 1 hour later, Kamei kicked off and kicked butt, Wyatt, 86-22 over Glens Ferry. So the Cubs improved to 8-1. Lawson Landmark had 4 touchdowns in the win. Everett Oatman, 4 touches, 2 touchdowns on the ground. The Kamei defense played exceptionally well. And, boy, 86 points. That was the high total of any team from the opening weekend at any level.
Yeah, I wonder if some of these 8-man teams, when they're playing basketball, they're like, man, we were averaged more in football than we did in basketball. So I don't know. It's just crazy to see some of those scores. But, it's awesome. You get multiple people involved. You get to showcase multiple athletes, and, that's what it's all about.
It was a big day offensively when you have to use the small font to get everybody's numbers in there. And again, that's only 3 guys. They had like 6 or 7 just up and down the lineup. Okay, Ryan. And then Friday night, Logos holds serve at home over Oakley, 62-12. Joseph Sensing has kind of settled in at quarterback. They've been platooning him and Baxter Covington this year. Gideon Haney, 3 catches, 3 touchdowns. We love those kinds of stat lines. And Logos, very quietly, 7-2 and kind of being overlooked.
Yeah, and I think that's the way they want it. This is probably one of the better defenses behind, the undefeated Kendrick team. I would say this is the second best team, on both sides of the ball in 2A football right now. And Gideon Haney getting a touchdown per reception. I thought that Gavin Schoening's stat line was gaudy for Kamiai, that he just stat stuffed a little bit. 1 rush, 23 and a touchdown, 2 receptions for 96 and a TD. And then you throw in Gideon getting a touchdown every time he touched the ball. I'm glad Logos kind of figured out their quarterback situation. I didn't know how long and sustainable the rotation at QB between Sensing and Covington was going to be. And kind of settling in there and being able to give Covington the ball consistently out of the backfield, that's going to bode well for Logos. I think this is an offensive juggernaut that people kind of slept on a little bit because we see the ridiculous numbers that Kendrick throws up. There's a possibility that we could see an all White Pine semifinal, which would be awesome to see. I mean, if we want to go back about people clamoring for an all East Idaho 5A. But yeah, this Logos team is legit. They're for real. They bottled up Kendrick really well for a good 3 quarters until they pulled away in the 4th. This Logos team is legit. They're a good ball club.
Yeah, and I think Covington still takes snaps at quarterback, but he's just running with it. I think.
Yeah, he's more of a wildcat almost. He'll hand off or he'll just take off running.
Yeah. And then Wyatt Hagerman did defend the honor of Southern Idaho, got a Magic Valley win, 64-20 over Potlatch, prevented the North from just sweeping everybody in the first round. Wyatt Mavenkamp, 230 yards on 22 completions. That is, like 10 yards per complete or per attempt, which is just outstanding. Kaysen Knight, just a sophomore, really coming into his own. 261 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, 8 tackles and 3 interceptions on defense, Wyatt.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's crazy. He played a lot as a freshman last year on a team that went to the semifinals. So, he has some veteran experience as a young sophomore. But he plays above his weight class. He's a really good basketball player for them as well. So he's played a lot of high level sports, and I'm glad that he's able to showcase that and be successful. And I'm glad that they were able to do that. When they start facing some of these tougher defenses, it's not going to look so gaudy on those stat lines. But I think getting some experience and making sure what works with your offense is always going to be important.
Yeah. So if we look at the matchups now, Kendrick, Grace, Raft River, and Notice were the 4 conference champions. They got the 4 first-round byes. Mr. Mystery says, I'm going with Kendrick, Prairie, Kamiai, and Logos. And you, Ryan, you said earlier you thought you knew where the mystery location for Mr. Mystery was. Where do you think he lives?
Well, he said he's in Meridian. I figured he was in the Treasure Valley somewhere, and especially on the west side of the valley, like the Canada line.
Yep, he is in Meridian. He just likes the Nampa Christian matchup as well. Okay, these matchups here, Kendrick and Notice. No disrespect to Notice, but the New York Jets would have their hands full with Kendrick right now. I mean, if we're being honest here, Prairie and Grace, I think, is going to be a really fun matchup. Scaggs, Grace is the one team that Kendrick has not played this year that I thought they had potential to push Kendrick and possibly topple the Tigers. It's kind of a bummer they're on the same side of the bracket.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, Grace is a dangerous team, and Hayden and I have talked about that quite a bit in our prep cast. Is like, we look outside of the White Pine quite a bit, like who's going to challenge these teams because they just look like juggernauts week in and week out. And Grace is a team that kind of stands out. That's a balanced group that, beat a good Hagerman team in week 1. So, they've got some pedigree there. They've got some ability to play up, but Prairie on turf. I mean, Prairie's going to be on the road. That's the one thing. A long road trip out there to East Idaho from Cottonwood. That's going to be a jaunt. No easy way to get there. So, should be Coach Haas is probably going to get creative on breaking that up and finding some stops and fields along the way to do things. But I mean, if you look at the matchup, so I wouldn't be surprised to see the lower seed win there and see Prairie in there. But at the same time, Grace is a very, very formidable opponent. And it should be that of all the games in 2A, that's the one I look at that could be a dynamite ball game. I think that Kamiai and Raft River game is going to be also deceptively good too.
Yeah, Wyatt, Raft River 6-2. Their only losses were to Grace 22-6, and then Valley 42-26 when they were banged up a little bit. Raft River saying, "Hey, we don't get any respect around here."
Yeah, and Raft River. I mean, it was them and Oakley, running the division for a while. It wasn't that long ago, so they have experience and they have a lot of kids that play good football and have had experience and kind of know what it takes. So it's interesting. I think them playing that game at home is again going to be an advantage, but it's going to be tough. I mean, Cammy coming off of scoring 86 is they'll probably put up 40 just by showing up. So, I mean, is Raft River capable of scoring more than that? I think that's what it's going to come down to is how many points are you able to put up?
Yeah, Raft River hasn't been the explosive offense this year. They've kind of leaned on their defense a little bit. And then Logos and Hagerman, these teams played in the regular season opener way back in August on IdahoSports.com if you want to go back and watch the tape. 34-8 was the win for Logos. I believe Logos had 10 sacks against Hagerman. Josh Prince alone had 4. Peter Story alone had 4. And then 2 other guys had 1 each. So if Hagerman's offensive line has gotten better, this could be a good matchup. But until then, I think I'll go Logos in that matchup there.
One outside little tidbit here, because they're not playing at the new Lewiston High School field on the turf. They're going to be playing in rain at the old Bengal field, and they're playing 3 games consecutively all on the same day. A 7:00 start in what could be an absolute sloppy mud bowl. I'm here for it, man. I'm telling you what, that could be a fun game. Slip and slide down the middle of the field between the hashes. So whichever team is going to bring the running game, that's going to be the one I think that's going to probably take away the victory in that ball game.
Eat your Wheaties, Case and Knight, that's for sure. Okay, guys, and then finally the 1A bracket here. Let's see. Let's put up this 1A bracket. This is where we had that crazy game with Wallace and Salmon River down there at the bottom, 64-58. Genesee blows past Timberline, 66-26. Tri-Valley beats Hanson, 64-20. Garden Valley goes to Chalice, the champs from the East. They won that tiebreaker over North Gem and Rockland, that 3-way tiebreaker. Garden Valley wins 38-6. So let's just start from the top and work our way down. Garden Valley, as the number 12 seed, plays the number 5 seed Chalice. Chalice was not really the 5th best team. They were just the 5th conference champion, as it were. And so it didn't really surprise me here too much, Wyatt, that Garden Valley went on the road and got the road victory over Chalice 38-8.
Yeah, and Garden Valley's had a couple good years. I feel like I want to say there's been a Kelly there for a while now. But they've put up some points and they've been pretty successful. I think you're right. I think I think the expectation was that they were going to win, even though Chalice was the higher seed.
Yep. And then Ryan, we talk about Hanson and Tri-Valley, the Titans, a 64-20 win. Kind of a bummer that the Huskies went 7-1 and had to go play another 7-1 team in the opening round of the playoffs. But this was a very close game until halftime. Hanson was actually driving to take the lead. They throw a back-breaking pick 6 for a touchdown, and then they come out in the second half and throw another back-breaking pick 6 for a touchdown, kind of sandwiched around halftime there, and Tri-Valley was off to the races from there.
Yeah, Tri-Valley's just a juggernaut of a team. How good was the long pin conference this year? Hanson making the playoffs for the first time in, forever. The storybook season had to come to an end. It was a shame that it had to happen in the first round. I think that's a team that deserved a better seed line. But, end of the day, Tri-Valley gets the win, obviously, after losing that heartbreaker to Council. But, you look at a team that's loaded for bear and to make a run. This Tri-Valley team has got as good a chance as anyone in this bracket to make some serious noise.
No doubt. Genesee, no problems with Timberline, 66-26. Cameron Holmes, 3 touchdowns on the ground. Noah Bowman, 3 touchdowns as well. Carson Warner Hall, 99-yard pick 6. It doesn't get any longer than that. And then the really crazy game, Wallace and Salmon River, 64-58 the final. Guys, I gave out the IdahoSports.com player of the game to Hank Larson at the time because I was like, man, he had 11 catches for 325 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also had a fumble recovery on defense with 6 tackles. Looking back on it, I probably should have gone with Cooper Miller. 397 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 224 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns on the ground. Wyatt, you ever seen numbers like that?
I mean, that's like when they show the old school, when it was like Texas Tech versus Oklahoma, and it was Baker Mayfield versus Patrick Mahomes, and it was, it was some crazy score, and they broke the record because they had 10 passing touchdowns. The other one had 8, and that's what I'm getting vibes of right now. Old Big 12.
600 yards of total offense and 8 touchdowns. You didn't pick in this player of the game.
He's holding that pick he threw against him.
Coop, buddy, I got your back.
You know what's funny? That's the first interception he's thrown all season. And he's only a sophomore. The 3 guys listed for Wallace here: Miller's a sophomore, Radford's a sophomore, Larson's a junior. So all underclassmen there for Wallace. So let's get a look at this bracket here, guys. It's Garden Valley and Council, rematch of the long pin in the regular season. Carey at Coeur de Christ. Oh my gosh, I'm kind of jealous, Scaggs. That's going to be a really fun matchup. You're going to be broadcasting that Saturday from the Mariman Health Core Center down in Worley. Deary is a conference champion. They get to host Tri-Valley. Carey's like, hey, we were a conference champion. How come we don't get to host somebody? Instead, they got to go on the road. And then Wallace and Genesee in a rematch. Genesee won in the regular season 22-18. It was a very close contest there. So, Wyatt, what do you think about these quarterfinal matchups?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of really, really juicy matchups there. I mean, it's not very often you see Carey with like a 5 next to them. I mean, it just seems kind of weird. You just kind of expect them to, be booking whatever they need to book for the semifinals. So, it's hard to count them out. And I think Tri-Valley, they always seem to be, Tri-Valley, it's always a bunch of tough kids that live in Tri-Valley and go to school there. I mean, it's just a bunch of ranch hands, bunch of kids just working long days. So, I'm interested to see how some of those teams do. But yeah, I'd say the best matchup is definitely that Coeur de Christ Carey.
I'm telling you what, Brandon, that game on the bottom, you had that game earlier in the year. The rematch could be, I think, with Wallace figuring things out a little bit. That could be of all the games too. That one right there could be a shorting out the scoreboard type game. Genesee and Wallace. Yeah,
and then give me one upset special, because there's got to be one somewhere, right?
I'm calling the game, and I don't know if I'm allowed to pick it, but the thing is, it's a name that everybody in the state's going to need to know, and that's John Denke. The running back for Coeur de Christ he's a freak, man. For 1A football player at running back, he is an absolute specimen. He's a dump truck going downhill with no brakes. I'll just put it that way. And then you look at what they've got in the backfield with Clemens slinging the rock the way he is, and big targets on the outside with Haynes. That's an offense. I mean, that's a matchup nightmare in 8-man football. You throw those pieces together that Coeur de Christ has on the offensive side of the ball. Can they figure it out on the defensive side? We saw them play Logos fairly tough. And that was a team that was like, I kind of use that as a litmus test. Like, how good can this Coeur de Christ team be? Playing Logos tough, playing up a classification against a team that's going to be playing 3A football next year. Coeur de Christ held their own. I mean, they put up some respectable numbers on offense. They didn't win the game, obviously. Coeur de Christ people are sleeping on. I think that is a team right there. They are as lethal as anyone offensively, and I'm excited as heck for that ball game to be lucky enough to be on the call for that one. That could be a phenomenal game that's just going to be, touchdowns galore. Yep, for sure. Mr. Mystery says, let's go Council, CDC, Deary. Oh, man, don't call him CDC. That's a bad connotation. Coeur de Christ, Carey, Coeur de Christ, Deary, and Wallace. And Hayden says, top half of the bracket is a gauntlet. Keep an eye on Tri-Valley. Okay, in terms of last time they were in the semifinals, 3 of the 4 teams in it were in the semis last year. That would be Carey, Tri-Valley, and Garden Valley were all semifinal teams last year. It was 2017 for both Deary and Genesee, the last time they were in the state semifinals. For Council, you have to go back to 2014. Wallace, 2011.
And then Court of Christ never, of course, because it's only their third year of football or second year of football.
Second year of football, yeah.
Yeah. So some long droughts potentially could end in the semifinals there as well. Okay, guys, we did it. We went through 6A all the way down to, let's see, let me get this figured out. How about the, oh man, guys, we almost had the perfect show until the end.
I think you just needed to be the big and we're the small. You're the,
That's
you're
right.
the main. We're the small.
I'm the top billing here on this show. Thanks to everybody who hung out tonight for us. Again, if you would please like, share, and follow, that will help everyone else find this a little easier on replay. Wyatt and Ryan, thank you so much for joining us here on Gem State Game Day. These shows will get shorter as more teams get eliminated. We'll have less to talk about, I promise. So
we hope.
Yes. Wyatt, thank you so much for hopping on. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I hope everyone has a good week watching a lot of good football.
For sure. IdahoSports.com, by the way, is prepared to broadcast. It's either 19 or 20 of the 24 quarterfinal games happening around the state. Real live broadcasters, a play-by-play guy and a color guy for most of those. The fact that we're able to pull that off is just a testament to broadcasters like you two and so many others that make IdahoSports.com such a successful team. And so I am so grateful to all of our broadcasters to make that possible. Like 20 out of 24 or 19 out of 24, whatever it is, that is just simply incredible. So
yeah, and I think Idaho Sports does a good job of getting people that are kind of from that area too. And they know those kids and they know their experiences and that, oh, this is so-and-so's cousin and this is the little brother. So Idaho Sports does a good job of being personal.
Yep, no doubt. So for Wyatt Helm and Ryan Scaggs, and if you want to see if your game is going to be on IdahoSports.com, just click on the Game Streams tab on the homepage at IdahoSports.com. But until then, enjoy the quarterfinal action. It starts Thursday night in the ICCU Dome, everybody. So Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this week. Enjoy the playoff football. We'll see you back here for the semifinals edition of Gem State Game Day. Good night. Thanks for tuning in.